Hello, my name is Leah Fromm with the LTV Community Intern Project. Today I'm here with Katie Baldwin, one of the co-founders of our local Amber Waves farm. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Leah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how Amber Waves got started?
Amber Waves was started when Amanda and I were working as apprentices, farm apprentices at Quail Hill Farm in 2008. And we were working in the fields and we loved the work. We wanted to continue to farm. And so we thought, we could stay at Quail Hill, we could go work at a different farm, or we could start our own. And fortuitously, there was some property in Amagansett that came up for lease just the following season. And so we submitted a business plan and created Amber Waves.
And how many acres of farmland have you expanded to now?
We started farming a single acre, had leased 7.7, and that has expanded to nearly 40.
And is it all in one spot, or is this spread out across the East End?
We are in a patchwork of farm fields. There are about four 10-acre plots in and around Amagansett and East Hampton.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And as a farm that grows crops relatively throughout the entire year, I'm sure you have to explore a number of options in order to combat the various weather of the East End. So how do you utilize greenhouses in terms of jump-starting your farming and maintaining farming throughout the winter seasons?
Good question. We've leaned heavily on greenhouses. We start all of our own seeds in our greenhouse. So right now in May, we have already started hundreds of thousands of seedlings in our greenhouses. And these are what we call low tunnels. So they're 3 low hoop houses meant to start seedlings. And we will utilize that space for that purpose until about July, when it's too hot in there and we have to put a shade cloth on because it's nearing 100 degrees. And so at that point, we utilize a greenhouse for drying things, almost kind of in an opposite way. So when we harvest our garlic, we will bring it into that greenhouse. We cure sweet potatoes in there. And then in the fall, it transitions to again, acting as a space for plants to grow in the ground. We grow wintertime crops. We'll plant garlic in there, and we'll plant greens for cutting salad greens and carrots. So it helps with season extension.
Yes, I mean, it sounds like you have a variety of different uses for these greenhouses.
Definitely.
So are there any limits to the types of crops that can be grown inside a greenhouse?
You know, I have been so pleasantly surprised to see the innovation that farmers on the East End have used with greenhouses. I know our friends on the North Fork are growing ginger in a greenhouse, which is extraordinary to think you can grow ginger on the East End of Long Island, but all because of that greenhouse technology. Some of our friends in East Hampton are growing primarily all of their tomatoes inside of a high tunnel. So that helps speed up their growth because it protects them and warms them, and the plants are warm and happy in there, and you can control the wind and weather and water, and more of a controlled environment for those sensitive crops.
And I know you mentioned that you plant thousands of seedlings in these greenhouses. Do you have seedlings that spend their entire lives in the greenhouse, or are they all transplanted into the outdoors and live the rest of their lives there? Yes.
In our system, we utilize it to start plants as transplants, and then they move to the outdoors in our farm fields. We have experimented in the past 2 seasons with something called a caterpillar tunnel, which is essentially a mobile greenhouse that's in the field. So it's something you can easily construct within a day with PVC hoops, and then you cover it with plastic and you tie it up, and then when you're done with it, off it comes and there it goes. So sometimes the greenhouse will follow the plants into the field to give them a little more encouragement and help with the transition.
Yeah, and that helps to extend the benefits of, there's already so many, but you extend the benefits of the greenhouse into the fields in a less invasive and large way.
Exactly.
And I mean, as a member of the East Hampton community, and I'm sure you understand how important our local farm stands are. So how do you feel about implementing greenhouses in local schools as a way to teach kids about where the food at our farm stands comes from?
It's such an important educational tool, and it provides a space where children can enter and observe. So I have seen, we host many field trips at Amber Waves, and we always tour them through the greenhouses. So immediately the children are using all of their senses, because as upon entering the greenhouse, they feel that it's warmer and they can feel the humidity. And things smell good in there because all of the, a brush of basil circulates all of the scent. And the visual of all of this greenery growing and thriving in this indoor space. I think that children, they think it's fun. Yes. When they go in the greenhouse. They think it's warm and cozy and fun, and it brings joy.
Yeah, and exactly. And in order to get kids excited about farming and excited about eating healthy foods, they have to think that it's fun to grow their own foods. And right. Especially kids of an elementary school age, they want to enjoy it if they're going to, yeah. So in terms of establishing greenhouses at local schools, I mean, that's a very large feat. Do you foresee there being any limitations in comparison with commercial greenhouses like those that you use compared to setting up a smaller, more learning greenhouse at schools?
With greenhouses, a little can go a long way. So even a small, when I say small, even a 12-foot by 20-foot several hoop greenhouse space that could act as an outdoor greenhouse classroom that could easily host 16 children at a time is a really low cost investment, easily constructed, doesn't take up a lot of real estate, and has a super high impact.
Yeah, and I know that you guys do so much at your farm in terms of getting kids involved and teaching them about the food that they eat and all that. So do you think that other local farms, I mean including yours, would be interested in coming in, first of all, in helping to build these greenhouses, but also in lecturing and teaching students about what it is that you do in terms of providing food for our community?
I think so. Our farming community is so proud of the work that we do, and we know the underpinnings are a rich history on the East End, and weaving that into the school curriculum, I think, is important to farmers, my colleagues that are here now. And the openness and willingness of the farming community to share their knowledge with children is vibrant. So I am confident that we could band together and get some greenhouses at schools if that's the direction. I think some schools, for whatever reason, maybe wouldn't be able to do it. I think it's nice to then offer those schools the opportunity to come visit local farms and see the real life farms in action.
Yeah, definitely. And considering that farming is such a stable part of the East Hampton's community now, and even in the past, I mean, the immense amount of farmland out here is just, it's amazing for kids to learn about it and to understand that this is where the food, not necessarily in our grocery stores, but in our all of our local farm stands that they drive by all the time, to know that this is where it comes from is just very important.
And the greenhouse is the origin of that life cycle. They're able to participate. I know children that visit our farm are able to participate in this process of seeding, and then they'll come back the next week and notice growth, and then they'll come back the following week. So the greenhouse implements the beginning of the life cycle, and then they can make the connection that by the time they eat the tomato from the farm stand, 5 months later, there it was.
But this is where it came from. And also just getting to be able to go and plant something and to be able to take it home yourself and be like, oh, I grew this and I'm getting to eat it is a big part of especially with children of like an elementary school age, and getting to feel like they're contributing towards their family in that way too.
Yes, there's an empowerment that we see when children are working in a greenhouse space, and they can they notice that different seeds, they're noticing, they're observing, they're seeding, but they're seeding more than the food. I think this food imprint memory that they're getting of having this process of participating in growing food, I hope empowers them to make healthier food choices for the rest of their lives, because they're aware that fruits and vegetables are healthy for them. They're willing to taste it, maybe when they otherwise wouldn't, because they've contributed to it. So we've seen really positive knock-on effects of greenhouse work as it relates to healthy eating.
Yeah, exactly. And like when a kid's walking through a grocery store and they see the bright, vibrant boxes on like a cereal, they want to eat it, but then they go home and they're growing their own food. It overtakes the advertising aspect in that, like I grew this myself, and that has a very big effect on students.
I think so, because there's ownership and pride in it, and you helped create it, and so you want to enjoy it. You want to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time. Once again, I'm Leah Fromm with the LTV Community Intern Project. Thank you so much for tuning in to my interview with Katie Baldwin of our local Amber Waves Farm.